So I'm over here just casually minding my own business, literally eating a bowl of cereal, going to sleep, getting ready to go to sleep. And they just go and spoil how the entire Transcend mechanic functions. So we'll talk about that today. I'll stop eating my bowl of cereal while my Rice Krispies get soggy, and we'll talk about that. So this card was posted literally 5 minutes ago. I immediately got up, immediately walked to my computer, said goodnight to my wife, of course, and started recording because this is important enough to talk about rather than eating this cereal. Preserve Tradition is a Mystic instant that says Legendary. You can only have one Preserve Tradition in a constructed deck. Costs nothing. It is a blue pitch, keep that in mind. And it says put target action card from your graveyard onto the bottom of your deck. This targets action cards, not instants. If you've played another blue card this turn, Transcend. So here is what happens when you Transcend. I was wrong. I apologize. Please forgive me. I tried to make my best guess in the previous video. This is how Transcend functions. When you Transcend, you will flip this card, and on the other side, you can see Inner Chi there, and it says Transcended from Preserved Tradition, and one of those blue energy symbols can pay for a Chi, or / it can cover a regular resource cost. So essentially, what will happen is when you Transcend a card, and it looks like all legendary type of cards. So in other words, if you have a Transcend effect, it's most likely going to be legendary based on the way that they've kind of shown thus far. Once you've Transcended that card, once you've activated the Transcend on the effect, you will take that card out like it is an invocation, like a dragon. You will flip it and you will put it back in to your sleeve, and then you have Inner Chi, and then instead of going onto the board, that is now added to your hand to be pitched. Now, what happens after you pitch it? Well, like any other pitched card, it will go to the bottom of your deck, and then you will draw that card. It will be that Inner Chi. You will draw that card, and you'll be able to basically only pitch it from that point forward. So in a way, this is doing a similar thing to what I kind of postulated in the previous video, wherein Chi is being taken out of your deck and not really kind of, or the card, I should say, is being taken out of your deck and not really back into circulation to play in second or third cycle. In this case, the card is basically just being transformed into a resource card. It's non-blocking. It can only be used to pitch from this point forward. So it does remove itself from the second and third cycles of the game in the sense that the card is no longer playable and is now just pitchable. I think that's a cool way to take it. I think that's a really neat idea. And this kind of begs the question of how many of these types of cards will actually be in circulation, will actually be available for you to play. Because we know that each of the heroes is going to get their own legendary kind of splashy card because it's pigeonholed into the different domains, or you can call it the different classes as well. So we know that everyone has access to one of those. This is a common, it is a legendary. Everyone will have access to this because it's a Mystic instant, does not block, so keep that in mind as well. But it's at common, and we can probably assume that this is not a cycle, though we don't quite know. If this were a cycle, then this would essentially just target another action card and then only pitch for, you know, red or yellow in that case, and that would not be good. So I'm going to assume that this is not a cycle and it only comes in blue, kind of like dragons. And there's a lot of similarities here to the dragons, so that is a very cool kind of connection from the illusionist side of things. But if this is sort of the dragon-esque thing, how many do we expect to be seen? Now, I will say this, there was a commenter in the last video that I posted that had a really good idea. They said, okay, well, if there are 18 Marvels within the set, and obviously taking out 6 of those Marvels from the circulation, because there's the adult Marvels and there's the young hero Marvels, and I believe they are doing it that way. That would leave 12 Marvels left over, and so maybe there are 12 of these types of cards that you could put into your deck. I have not done the hypergeometric calculations and what that would equate to, but that could be a thing. It could be something like 12, and they all get their own Marvel version, which would make a ton of sense because it's kind of like the dragon. dragons. They all get their own Marvel versions there. The difference, though, is that with dragons, I think there were like 9 dragons, 10 dragons or something like that. But the dragons you could run 3 of for most of them. I think for 9 of them. I don't know the answer off the top of my head. I need to eat more cereal. And then, of course, there were the 3 legendary dragons on top of that you can only run 1 of. But there were so many other dragons that you can just splash in 3 of that you could just fill your deck out with dragons in a lot of respects. Like, you could just draw dragons consistently. With these, it won't be as consistent if there are only, let's just say, 12. If there are only 12 cards that can generate chi through the Transcend keyword, then, well, 12 out of 60. I don't know. Someone tell me the math in a comment below. What are your hypergeometric odds for drawing a single card in a 4-card hand? 12 out of 60. If that's the hypergeometric calculations, that would be how often you could transcend and then gain that chi. The interesting thing, though, about this effect is that you get it immediately. You play a blue card on these types of cards, and then you transcend and you bring that back to your hand. So you basically are replacing the card that you play with itself and gaining those resources back. So this card, in a way, kind of messes with the value proposition of your hand, because you could look at your hand and go, well, these are 4 cards that I could just figure out how to play this 4-card hand with. Or if I'm incentivized to play this blue card, then this second card, in this case, Preserve Tradition, which, by the way, has fantastically beautiful traditional Japanese art. That is incredible. That's like woodblock carving art. That's amazing. You are looking at this card as both its effect and 3 chi in your hand, which can then immediately be fed into your hero effect, depending on what hero you're playing. So it gains you a card and it gives you a Crouching Tiger in your hand if you're Zen. It gains you the ability to like peer at the top of your opponent's deck and play blue cards from their Banish Zone if you are new. And it gives you a Spectral Shield with a +1 counter if you are Enigma. So this card, if you pair it with a blue card, is the hero effect as well as the card effect packaged in. That is such interesting design. That is such an interesting way to design a card. And like, I know I was thinking about the possibility of, this going to Soul and then you pitching it from Soul and then it cycles back around. But in doing so, you're losing out on that extra value, and maybe that's enough value lost that it makes it unfunctional in a lot of ways and not as like smooth of a process. Whereas this gives you an effect of playing a card and then immediately refunds you the resources to maybe pour in or dump into either another card from hand, another sequence of cards from hand, or the chi effect. And this is all just understanding on a base level of finally how Transcend functions and how we gain chi. Going from this point forward, how many more effects will ask us to pay chi instead of just regular red resources or red energy? That's going to be really interesting to kind of keep your eye on as well, because if there are much more effects down the way and down the road that ask us to pay chi, then these cards are highly sought after. Plus, if there are more than 12, like some people are kind of arguing that maybe it's like the dragons, then this could be a lot more accessible. But it's also interesting to note, this card, specifically this card, does not block for anything at all. If you compare that along with these other instants, all of these cards are instants that gain you chi. And so, like, for example, Sacred Art Undercurrent Desires, when you flip that, it's giving you chi, but none of these cards block. By the way, these marvels are incredible. Like, can you imagine what this is going to look like with gold? Like, the cold foil, the gold cold foil. This card's going to look absurd. It's gonna look so beautiful. All of these cards are gonna look so beautiful. Look, here's the thing. There's a lot of people that make the joke that only the illusionists get the best stuff, but I mean, that card's gonna look hot. It's gonna look really good. This card is designed to make you thirsty, and it's just gonna look really good in like cold foil marvel form. So this feels like a pretty big win for a Fab. I mean, this set is clicking on literally every cylinder, and it's so well designed and targeted for the market that Fab is splashing into. Like, we have an anime alt art hero that people are going to latch onto. We have these beautiful marvels. We have traditional woodblock Japanese prints. We have just like a ninja, an assassin, and this check. Everything's big old check boxes. So I'm thoroughly enjoying being wrong about how Transcend functions, just to enjoy the fact that this set is just an absolute banger thus far. And we've seen like barely any cards. So I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but come on. Come on. Let me know what you think about this in a comment below. Let me know what you think about, I don't know, those cards in a comment below. And then if you want to, you can make this number go slightly higher. And then when that number goes up, everybody gets more excited and more hyped. As always, thanks for watching.